Okay, in this video, we're going to demonstrate the generation of match reports from Amazon RDS Postgres data. Essentially, just give a step-by-step walkthrough of Interzoid's Postgres data matching wizard, where we'll be connected directly to an Amazon RDS instance for Postgres. So we're going to demonstrate the data matching tool using Amazon RDS as the actual database that we'll be connecting to. And the goal will be to identify duplicate records, discover inconsistent data, and also show how you can join tables using data that is not exactly the same. So table A could be IBM, table B has international business machines. Typically through a join, you won't be able to match that, but using the data matching capability, you'll be able to match inconsistent data like that and pull fields from both tables. That example shows that traditional SQL joins and group by operations and of course any analytics you do depends on data being identical. Unfortunately, in the real world, data is rarely like that. A record could say Acme Corp in one example and Acme Corporation in another, maybe even misspelled ACNE, who knows? But every exact match query would treat them as three separate companies. But in this case, we can identify instances of that within the RDS tables, which makes everything that we do with that data more effective, more valuable, and of course get ROI out of everything that leverages the data that exists within AWS RDS. And best of all, this is very easy to do. Now, since this data matching tool uses API calls behind the scenes, you will need an API key, and this goes right here. You can get your API key here, and it comes with free trial credits, so you can try it out. Of course, you'll need an AWS account and an RDS database to access. You can access one that already exists and run these reports on your own. Of course, you could create an RDS table using the sample data that we have, and we do have instructions for doing that in the notes or in the description. There's a link to a document which walks you through that. But essentially, it's just a few steps to create an AWS RDS instance, and I'll briefly show that. So, for example, if we go right here, if you go to the AWS RDS tools, you can simply create a Postgres database using a free tier or the smallest possible tier using easy create or full configuration if you want to control some of the options, and simply load the sample file that will give you to do that. But again, the instructions for doing that are right in the description of this video. The sample file that you can download is called companies.csv, and you can see there's a list of company names and categories, and setting up the database table is pretty easy in the document that you can take a look at. But we want to spend more time on matching either with your existing table if you do have that available. But for this demo, of course, we'll be using this specific data. Again, just a list of company names and then categories. Now to get started, we'll simply click on the Get Started. The tool is at postgres-match.interzoid.com. And again, you will need an API key. So simply register for that at our website, interzoid.com, and you'll get some free API credits. Click Get Started. And then you can select the matching function. So depending on which fields, you might have more than one column you want to match on. You can do company name matching, which would be organization names, individual names. So you might have Jim Smith and James Smith and all those different variations that might occur. Street address matching. So a lot of addresses could have different spellings, avenue, AVE, different ways to represent an address. We can overcome that using this matching function. And of course, we can combine a couple of them if we have two columns available for the purposes of identifying duplicate records, matching across tables, or we just simply want to get a gauge of the issues that we have in a given data table just by generating reports that show us all of the matching records, duplicate records that exist within there. So for now, I'll just do company name matching to keep it simple. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we can either use connection fields or a connection string. And of course, this is saved here. I won't show it because it has my password. You can remember these details in the browser. Let me show you an example of what a connection string looks like from AWS RDS. You can see from the AWS RDS screen under connectivity and security for the database that I've created called Interzoid demo using that data that I just showed you. If you go to code snippets, there's different connection strings. And if you can go down to connection steps, if I scroll down, it would show you the actual connection string that you're going to use. And of course, yours will be different than mine. You can see here in the instruction document that we have, here's an example connection string that'll have all the information you need. You simply copy this connection string from your AWS RDS instance on the AWS panel, and you'll paste it right here into connection string. And then when you do that, you simply click connect, and it'll connect to the instance. The default schema is public, and so I'll just select that. It'll tell me what it is. I'll click the next button, and then if you remember, the companies was the name of the table. I've only got one table in this specific database that I set up, and then there was an ID column and then also a company and category. It created the ID column when I imported the data into RDS. And I have some choices here. I can, first of all, the company name column that is the one that we're going to match on. That's just simply called company. That was the name of the company. And then the columns that I want to include in the results, we can include that ID, the company name, and then we can include the category. If there's more columns, of course, there'll be many more options here. And we are going to show the similarity keys that are in the output. Now, these similarity keys are what's generated by the Interzoid system. And that uses AI, it uses knowledge bases, it uses algorithms, and all sorts of different ways to generate a canonical key, which represents many multiple permutations of the same type of data. So GE or General Electric, for example, would both generate the same similarity key. And that's what we match on rather than the data itself. And you'll see that in just a second. And then I click next again, and it's given me the review here in step 5. We're gonna connect via connection string. The schema is public, table companies, company name column is company, output columns. Those are the 3 that we selected. We're going to show the keys, and we're only going to show the matches. Now, if you want, you could append the similarity key to every single record in the database, and you would do that if you want to do joins, where every single record has a similarity key. But for this example, we're just going to show matches. And then I simply need to click the Run Match button. And then you can see your matches here. So you can see Food Lion, Costco and Costco stores, First Merit Bank. You can see the ID, the category, which of course, is different as well, but we only matched on the company name, so that's the important thing. Goodyear Tire and Rubber, all these different incidences of the same company name. And I can save these results. So I might want to, do something, put them in a PDF or somehow style this report, but I simply can see all the matches here. So save results will export this result set. And so as you can see, it's very easy to connect to AWS RDS tables and start running these match reports based on the data that you have, and very quickly be able to ascertain what kind of redundant data, duplicate data problem that you have. You can see, maybe you've got 30% duplication or 60% duplication, which could really be a problem. Or maybe you have 2% and you say, hey, that's something we don't really need to worry about. We can live with that. But either way, at least you'll know and you can trust your data after running these reports. And again, these similarity keys, you can also use these as well. And then if you import those back into the database, you can use those as the basis of doing fuzzy matching across multiple tables or whatever creative way that you see fit to do so. Again, if you have any questions, you can contact us at support@interzoid.com, or you can go to our website at www.interzoid.com and get a trial key or explore some of the different options. And of course, this uses the APIs that we built behind the scenes, and so you can integrate those APIs directly into any type of process that you want. For some reason, it makes sense for you to use that. Thanks for watching, and again, if you have any questions, support@interzoid.com. Thank you.